Is it time for a reintroduction video? It might be. So welcome to my channel. I'm going to talk for a little bit about who I am and what I'm hoping to do here. And hopefully you are coming along for the journey. So I'm Michael. This is Tiny Fish Hobby. It's called that because it's a very tiny channel compared to a lot of the other hobby-focused channels out there. I have been playing miniature tabletop war games since the mid to late 90s. I think I first started with Warhammer 40,000 2nd edition back in, I want to say 1996. I started with the 2nd edition Chaos Codex, and my very first army was Chaos Space Marines. I have pretty much always been a huge fan of the Alpha Legion, ever since reading their lore in that particular codex. I used to play at a very small game store in South Texas, and some of my fondest memories were playing against my opponent in their little dingy back room late into the night. It was really, really cool. Some great experiences there. I played Chaos Space Marines up until about halfway through 3rd edition, when my main opponent at the time moved away, and I got out of wargaming for a couple of years. At that point, I jumped into War Machine and played Khador for a couple of years. I also had a Circle Ouroboros army. I ended up playing War Machine and Hordes both for probably a good 12 or so years, maybe even a little bit longer actually. At some point, I decided that I would start an orc army because I wanted to learn how to paint yellow. So I jumped in with Bad Moons, learned how to paint yellow by hand, no airbrush. And then when the Betrayal at Calth set released, I jumped completely in and went all the way with Alpha Legion. And here I am now with a huge collection of Alpha Legion miniatures. I take pride in the fact that most of my army is fully painted, and I really enjoy getting a lot of compliments on that army whenever I play games. People just seem to really like seeing fully painted armies on the tabletop. So it's really cool to be in the middle of a game and people will come up and say, "Oh my God, I love the way your army looks. You did a fantastic job on that." And honestly, it stokes the ego a little tiny bit. I'm not going to lie about that. It is cool to get compliments on the miniatures that you painted. So what am I hoping to do with this channel? Well, I generally try to be a fairly positive person when it comes to the hobby. So I'm trying to get across some of that at least. I think there are several things that I do fairly well when it comes to miniature painting, including weathering. I think my basing is really good on my miniatures when I put in the effort. And obviously, having a fully painted army is very important. I also do terrain stuff. So I have a bunch of MDF terrain that is fully painted. And mostly here, I'm here to share my hobby with you folks. Hopefully you are going to enjoy being here on this channel. I don't know yet how great I will be at doing painting tutorials. I have a bad tendency to forget to record steps along the way, which isn't great when you're trying to be a content creator in the first place. I'm not gonna lie, I would love to have this channel kind of blow up and become huge, mostly because I really like talking to people about things. I like the engagement. So likes are great, don't get me wrong. It's awesome to see likes on a video or on an Instagram post or whatever. But what I really like doing is talking with fellow gamers about the hobby, talking about various aspects of painting, various aspects of the lore, just like that whole thing is what really keeps me in the hobby in the first place. I know a lot of hobbying is a very solo activity, but for me, it's great to hear from other people who are also going through that same journey and that same experience. I also wouldn't be lying if I also would be lying, sorry, I have to get my words straight here. I'd also be lying if I said that there wasn't at least a tiny little bit of appeal in someday being one of those people who gets free stuff from wargaming companies. Because, I mean, come on, let's be honest. That sounds pretty cool, right? Right. Earlier last year, leading up to the release of the second edition of the Horus Heresy, I actually tried really hard to get Warhammer Official to notice me on their social media and on their Instagram and send me a lot of the new Horus Heresy kits. That ended up not happening, of course, because I'm practically a nobody. Games Workshop doesn't know that I exist, but I gave it a shot. And in the meantime, I've had the opportunity to paint some of the new Horus Heresy plastic tank kits. Mostly the ones that I was able to purchase myself. I'm not paid or sponsored or anything along those lines. I'm not lucky enough to be one of those people. And I will say that so far, Games Workshop is knocking it out of the park with all of the new Heresy releases that they are doing. The kits that I've worked on are fantastic. I am really enjoying the painting process on all of those. I have a Sicaran tank review up on this channel, which I'm going to try to link somewhere once I figure out how to do the linking thing so that you can go watch that video. And yeah, I also really like orcs. I am not one of those people who collects and paints 5 or 6 or 10 different armies. My interest is basically orcs and Alpha Legion and terrain as a side project, because I think terrain makes a gaming table. Terrain is the thing that makes the entire experience as immersive as possible. And I think every gamer should strive to have at least a semi-decent collection of terrain to help with their gaming experiences. So I'm here for the orcs and the Alpha Legion, and hopefully you guys are here to come along with me for that journey. So far, I have very rarely gotten to play the actual second edition of Horus Heresy. The last time I played Warhammer 40,000 was actually before the pandemic, so it's been a really long time. So I'm not one of those like battle report type of channels. I can't really give you competitive list advice because that's not how I play the game. That is not how I look at the game. So I think that's going to be my introduction for this channel, or my reintroduction rather. I'm glad to have you here. Let me know in the comments what you are thinking. Welcome to this little hobby journey, and I will see you guys in the next video, whenever that may be. Hopefully sooner rather than later, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye.